this computer. Hi, folks. Joining us today is Robert Codero. He's the Executive Director of the Grand Street Settlement on the Lower East Side. And so, Robert, before we start off, can you introduce yourself a little bit to my class?
Sure. Thank you, Josh. Again, Robert Cordero. I run Grand Street Settlement, which serves the Lower East Side and neighborhoods in Brooklyn. We're a historic settlement house. We've been around 105 years. We serve the entire lifespan of families, predominantly those who reside in public housing. And we are laser focused on helping folks achieve the American dream and to lift themselves out of poverty and into opportunity. So I'm really pleased to join all of you today.
Right, great. So, Robert, the first question, which I told you we ask all of our guests, is why not me?
I love that question, and thanks for having prepped me on this one. It has a great origin story to it. Why not me is actually a question that I asked myself prior to coming to Grand Street Settlement. My background, I think like just so many people that have interesting jobs and have wonderful opportunities to lead organizations and to have an opportunity to be in an impactful leadership position. It's kind of tricky to explain how you got there. For me, I had that moment when a recruiter contacted me to ask me if I was interested in this opportunity. At that time, I was running an organization in the Mott Haven section of the South Bronx. I was happy there. I figured I would be there the rest of my career. It was not an easy gig. I was running syringe exchange in the South Bronx, homeless shelters, housing, outreach, and working with folks who had really hardcore addiction issues, mental illness. And it was in many ways all-consuming, and I loved it. I did not contemplate to come to Grand Street Settlement. I knew by reputation that the settlement houses, and particularly Grand Street, was a rare opportunity to lead a fantastic organization with a great board of directors and wonderful programs. What really got me to answer that why not me moment was when the recruiter got to know me a little bit more and finds out that I'm a settlement house kid. I grew up in Chicago in a settlement house called Erie Neighborhood House. I was in the Head Start program. And I've always credited that with being the most impactful educational intervention in my whole life. Definitely more so than Chicago Public Schools, more so than going to the University of Chicago on scholarship for social work. It was that incredible opportunity that I got by my mom putting me in a Head Start program at an early age, pre-kindergarten, so that I was reading by the time I went to kindergarten in a pretty tough neighborhood in inner city Chicago. And so when that moment came, the recruiter said, "You're going to be the next executive director of Grand Street Settlement." And I wound up probably saying something similar to myself of why not me? And over 6.5 years later, it's been a wonderful journey, and I truly love the mission, and it's really become a part of who I am and what I do.
Okay, great. So the next question is, can you name a personal crucible that informs your leadership style?
Yes. I think tragedy can often, especially for folks who are in mission-driven work, it can be a force for personal and professional motivation and change. And for me, that was the unexpected death of my younger brother over 25 years ago back in Chicago. Right before I was making a career transition from being a Chicago public school teacher to going to University of Chicago, literally my first week of school and graduate school, my brother committed suicide. And he had struggled with mental illness. He had struggled with addiction. He had lived with me at the time. He was living with my mother. He was in his 20s. He was a beautiful boy. He was an incredible athlete and very smart. He just struggled with mental health issues. And that could have been a moment, I think, that could have broken me and altered my future for, in a bad way. And instead, what's happened since then, and really the future, ever since then, was I was supported by family. I was lifted up by classmates and friends to get through that period, and had to really shepherd my family and myself through all of that. It's taken years and years, but a few things that it did for me professionally is, one, it motivated me to try to do things better in the system that had failed my brother. Like when he went looking for help, he couldn't find it. When I went looking for help for him, and I'm pretty resourceful, couldn't find it. I wanted to make sure that if someone like my brother showed up at an organization that I was affiliated with or worked with, that he would be treated, or anybody like him would be treated, with dignity and respect. And that's not always the case, especially in social services. So I really made that a cornerstone of all of my work. Even at Grand Street Settlement, we're really working with families who are dealing with really poverty and racism and discrimination and poor housing. I keep that in mind with everything that we do, from how we design a new Head Start center, childcare center for parents and children, to how we treat each other and how we treat our community. So, that's been a big driver and motivator for me throughout my career. And I've turned, I think, that tragedy into hopefully a lot of love and positive impact.
Great. Okay, great. So next question is, can you talk about some of the challenges you faced navigating the workplace?
Sure. I think that the biggest challenge that we've all shared together for almost the last 2 years has been really how we have responded to COVID-19. It's the challenge of a lifetime for most of us, if not all of us. And the workplace is fundamentally and forever changed. In my line of work in social services, we're serving close to 15,000 families at many different sites with many different services. It's, these are essential services. We had to make sure that 800 children who were in preschool had continuous support and education. And we had to think even differently about their parents, about basic needs, about getting food to families, about getting diapers to families, about making sure that they didn't become homeless in the midst of a pandemic. And while those were some of the things that we work with families on, they became primary, and it has just fundamentally shifted the way that we do work. We also, I think, even though we've always known that early childhood education and after school and summer camps and taking care of